The crash of the forest was quiet. Only the sound of the wind moved through the trees. Birds had stopped singing. Even the animals were hiding. Something strange was coming. High above, the night sky changed. A flash of blue light appeared, followed by fire. Something was falling from the sky fast. It looked like a shooting star, but it was bigger, much bigger. The object crashed deep into the woods with a loud boom. Trees shook. The ground trembled. Birds flew away in fear. Miles away, a man named James Carter was walking through the forest. He was a quiet man, alone. He had a backpack, a flashlight, and a simple life. He came to the forest often to hike, think, and stay away from the noise of the world. But tonight was not quiet. James saw the light in the sky. He felt the ground shake. Then he heard the sound like metal breaking and fire roaring. His heart beat faster. What the hell was that? He said to himself. He ran fast. Towards the smoke, towards the unknown. After a few minutes, he reached the crash site. His eyes widened. A small spaceship, silver and broken, was lying between the trees. Parts of it were burning. The ship looked like it was made of smooth metal and strange blue glass. It didn't look human. James stepped closer. Carefully. Then he saw movement. On the ground, next to the ship, was a tall figure. Not human. It was a female alien, her skin glowing softly in the dark. She was beautiful and strange. Her body was thin, but strong. Her hair flowed like silver fire. She was breathing hard, in pain in her arms. She held a small alien child. Girl, no more than 5 years old. The child was crying silently, holding tightly to her mother. The mother was trying to protect her. Her arms wrapped around the child like a shield. Then it happened. An arrow flew through the air and struck the mother's back. She screamed. James turned quickly. Someone was in the trees. He saw shadows moving. The alien mother did not let go of her child. She held her tighter, covering her with her body. James didn't think. He acted. He grabbed a large branch from the ground and ran toward the noise. "Leave them alone," he shouted. One of the attackers turned. He was wearing black armor. His face was not human. His eyes were red and cold. James swung the branch. The armored figure blocked it, but stumbled back. Suddenly, the attacker vanished into the trees, gone like smoke. James rushed back to the mother and child. The alien mother was shaking. The arrow was still in her back. Her silver blood was running out, glowing softly. The child looked at James. Her eyes were full of fear, but also something else. Hope. James took off his jacket and covered them. "It's okay," he whispered. "I'm here to help." The mother looked at him. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Then she collapsed. James quickly checked her pulse. She was alive, but weak. He looked around. The ship was broken. The attackers could return. He had to move fast. He picked up the child first. She was light, her body warm. Then he gently lifted the mother, even with the arrow in her back. It was hard, but he didn't stop. He walked fast through the woods, away from the smoke and fire. Away from the danger. After almost an hour, he reached an old wooden cabin, one he had used before. It was empty, hidden, and safe. Inside, he laid the mother down on a blanket and wrapped the child in his coat. The girl looked at her mother, then at James. Her voice was soft and broken. "Mama hurt." James nodded. "I know. I'll help her, I promise." He took out his old first aid kit and tried to clean the wound. The blood was strange, not like anything he had seen, but somehow it was already starting to heal. Still, the mother didn't wake up. James sat near the fire and watched them. Who were they? Why were they here? And who were the attackers? He looked at the little girl. She had fallen asleep, holding her mother's hand. James knew one thing. He couldn't leave them. Whatever they were, they needed help, and someone had. Tried to kill them. He looked out the window into the dark forest. The wind blew again, cold and sharp. Something was coming. The cabin was cold, dark, and full of dust. But it was safe for now. James checked the lock on the door one more time. Then he walked over to the fire, where the alien mother and child lay. The flames gave off a soft orange light, casting long shadows on the wooden walls. The mother still hadn't woken up. The arrow wound on her back was glowing softly. Her breathing was slow but steady. The little girl sat beside her. She didn't cry. She just watched James with wide, glowing eyes. He brought her a cup of warm water. "Here," he said gently. She looked at the cup, then at him. After a pause, she reached out and took it with both hands. She drank slowly, then gave a small nod. "What's your name?" James asked. She stared at him silently. Then, in a small, broken voice, she said, "Lena." "Lena," James repeated, smiling a little. "I'm James." She nodded again, then turned back to her mother. She placed one tiny hand on her mother's cheek and whispered something in a language James didn't understand. It sounded like a song, soft, sad. Ancient James watched her closely. She didn't seem dangerous. She seemed human, not in body, but in love, in fear, in hope. He remembered the way the mother had thrown herself in front of the child when the arrow came. That was something any human mother would do. He walked to his bag and took out his small first aid kit again. He sat beside the mother and carefully removed the arrow. Her skin shimmered like glass, but it didn't bleed like normal. Her blood was silver and thick, almost like mercury. As soon as he cleaned the wound, it began to close. Not instantly, but much faster than any human wound. He shook his head. "What are you?" he whispered. Lena looked up. She heard him. She pointed to her chest, slowly, and said, "Not bad." James felt a strange guilt. "I didn't mean bad," he said quickly. "I meant, I don't understand." She didn't reply, but her eyes told him something else. She trusted him. Suddenly, there was a sound outside. Crunch, a branch breaking. James stood quickly and turned off the fire. He pulled the girl behind him and looked through a crack in the wooden wall. Nothing, just trees. Wind, but the forest felt wrong. Too quiet. He moved to the back window and peeked out. For a second, he thought he saw a red light moving between the trees, then it was gone. "Damn it," he whispered. He turned to Lena. "Are they following you?" Lena looked down, then she said, "They hunt us. Always." James knelt beside her. "Who are they?" Lena whispered a word he couldn't understand. Then she said, slowly, "They want no more of us. Finish us." James frowned. "They're trying to erase your kind." She nodded. He looked back at the unconscious mother. "Is she your real mother?" "Yes," Lena said, then added, "Last mother." James understood. She didn't just mean her own mother. She meant the last of their kind. "Why?" he asked. "Why are they doing this?" Lena touched her chest again. "I carry code." "What kind of code?" She looked confused, not knowing how to say more. Then she said, "Life code? Future." James froze. That little girl wasn't just a child. She was the key to something much bigger. Maybe a whole species. Suddenly, Soraya the mother moved. She groaned softly and opened her eyes. Her eyes glowed like silver moons. Lena leaned over her. Mama Soraya looked at her daughter, then at James. Her body tensed for a moment, but then relaxed. "You helped her," she said weakly. Her voice was deep and musical, but broken with pain. "Yes, James said. I tried. Soraya sat up slowly. She looked around the cabin, then her eyes locked on James's face. You are human? Yes. There was silence for a few seconds. Then she said, You are different from the others. James nodded. I get that a lot. Soraya smiled faintly. Thank you. James handed her a cloth for the wound. You're safe here. But not for long. I saw movement outside. Soraya's face darkened. They know. James stood. We need to move? But where? Soraya looked at Lena, then back at James. There is a cave, north of here. I hid something there. A beacon. If I can reach it, maybe someone will come. Someone not trying to kill us. James grabbed his backpack. Then we leave at first light. Soraya tried to stand, but fell. James caught her. I'll carry you, he said. You don't have to, she whispered. I know, I want to. Lena took his hand, small fingers gripping tightly. James looked at the two of them. He didn't know what the next day would bring, but he knew one thing. He wouldn't let them die. Not while he was alive. The forest was still dark when James opened his eyes. He had only slept for an hour, maybe less. The fire had turned to warm ashes. Soraya and Lena were still asleep, curled together under a blanket. Outside, the wind had stopped. The trees weren't moving. Too quiet. James felt it again, that strange silence. A silence not made by nature, but by something hiding inside it. He reached for his rifle and old hunting gun he kept for protection. He checked the bullets. Only 4 left. He walked to the window and looked out. Then he saw it. A red light, glowing softly in the distance. It wasn't a fire. It wasn't a flashlight. It was. Watching James quietly walk to Soraya and shook her gently. Wake up, he whispered. They're here. Her eyes opened immediately. No confusion. No delay. Just fear. She stood slowly, her wound still healing, but her body glowing faintly again. Can you fight? James asked. Soraya nodded once. If I must. Lena was already awake. Her small hand clutched James's coat tightly. We can't run, James said. Not now. We'll make our stand here. Soraya raised one hand. The air shimmered around her fingers. A blue shield formed in the center of the room, weak, but real. I can hold one barrier, she said. But not for long. James nodded. Then I'll handle the rest. He started placing his traps. Wire across the door. Glass bottles at the window, and a small grenade he had once buried in his backpack for emergencies. He paused. This was an emergency. Minutes passed, then dash crack. The cabin wall shook. Something heavy had landed outside. A second later, the door exploded inward. Through the smoke stepped a tall, armored figure. 7 feet tall, his body covered in black plates, his face hidden behind a smooth, red glowing helmet. One of the hunters, the creature looked at James. No words, no sound, just silent hate. Then it moved, fast. James fired. The shot hit the armor, but barely slowed it down. The creature rushed forward and slammed into the shield. Soraya grunted, holding it up with all her strength. The shield held, but it was cracking. James aimed again and fired at the creature's head. This time, the helmet shattered. The hunter screamed a deep, broken sound, like metal grinding against bone. Beneath the mask, its face was not alive. Half machine, half organic. Red lights blinked from inside. Its skull, it charged again. Soraya screamed. The shield burst apart. James grabbed the broken branch he had used days ago, slammed it into the hunter's neck. Sparks flew. The hunter threw him across the room. James hit the wall and fell hard. He couldn't breathe. The hunter turned to Lena, she screamed. Before it could reach her, Soraya raised both hands. Light exploded from her skin. Boom. A pulse of raw energy blasted through the cabin. Windows shattered. The hunter flew back, hit the far wall, and didn't move. Silence. Smoke. Dust. Fire dropped. James coughed and got up, holding his side. Soraya dropped to her knees, breathing hard. Blood silver and shining ran from her nose. I can't. Do that again, she said weakly. James limped to her. Then we leave. Now, suddenly movement. The dead hunter's body began to shake, then dash it vanished. Not like something dying, but like something being pulled away back into the air, disassembled molecule by molecule. Gone. James stared. What the hell was that? Soraya didn't answer. She looked terrified. That was a scout, she said. They always come before the rest. James's heart sank. How many more? Dozens, maybe more. Then we don't wait, he said. We run to that cave. You said there's a beacon. Soraya nodded. It's our only chance, she said. If it still works, shh. James picked up Lena and slung his bag over one shoulder. Let's go. As they ran out the back of the cabin, the first rays of sunlight touched the treetops behind them. The forest seemed to move. Shapes in the mist, lights in the dark. The hunt had begun. The sun was rising, but the forest remained cold. James ran. Through the trees, carrying Lena in one arm, his rifle in the other. Soraya moved beside him, fast but weak. Her skin flickered between silver and pale white. The fight had taken a toll. They didn't stop behind them. The woods were waking, but not in the way nature intended. Birds didn't sing. Leaves didn't rustle. Only the low hum of machines echoed in the distance. The hunters were tracking them. James looked ahead. How far is the cave? Soraya pointed toward the hills. 2 miles, maybe less. Lena looked up at James. Her voice was small. They feel us. James frowned. Feel you? She's right, Soraya said. They don't track with eyes or footprints. They track through energy, through blood. James glanced at Lena. Because of her. Soraya didn't answer at first. Then she said, because of what's inside her. They stopped to rest by a fallen log. Soraya dropped to her knees and pressed her hands into the dirt. Glowing lines formed under her fingers, alien symbols, pulsing softly. What are you doing? James asked. Checking the path, reading life signatures. James raised an eyebrow. You can? Read the earth. Soraya gave a sad smile. We lived with planets, not on them. The glow faded. Soraya stood slowly. Tease, one hunter close. The others are spreading. James looked at Lena. I need to know. What's inside her that they want so badly? Soraya sighed. The truth was heavy. She is more than a child, Soraya said. She is a memory, a code, a future. She sat on a rock and looked at the sky. Our people once ruled to star. Systems, we had art, cities of light, voices that could heal. But power made enemies. One by one, our worlds fell. James sat beside her. Lena played silently with leaves nearby, unaware of the weight of her blood. They destroyed our stars, Soraya whispered. Burned our oceans. But not just with weapons, with silence. They erased our names from every system, as if we never lived. James shook his head. That's genocide. Yes, and worse. They want to delete existence. She looked at Lena. My daughter carries a genetic song. A map to our history, our culture, our science. If she lives, our kind can return. James stared at Lena, stunned. You're telling me that girl is the last hard drive of your species? Soraya laughed bitterly. More than a hard drive, she's a seed. If planted in the right place, she can bloom into a whole civilization again. James looked out at the woods. And the hunters. They are synthetic assassins. Machines grown from bone and fear, created to track and erase. They have one job: to end bloodlines. He stood up. Then we're not running anymore. We're planting that seed, and we're lighting a fire so big the galaxy has to see it. Saraya looked up at him. You are very human. I'll take that as a compliment. She nodded. It is. Suddenly a low sound, not from the sky, from below. The ground trembled slightly. James raised his rifle. That wasn't thunder. Saraya touched the soil again. Her eyes widened. They've changed tactics. What do you mean? They're coming from underground. James cursed. So they know about the cave. Saraya nodded. They know everything. James turned to Lena. We move now. They ran. No more stopping. No more talking. Just roots, mud, branches, and breath. The cave finally appeared, a dark, narrow opening between sharp rocks, hidden behind moss and fallen trees. James cleared the entrance. Get in? Inside, the cave was cold and deep. Walls were smooth, like glass carved by water over 1,000 years. The deeper they went, the warmer it felt. Then they saw it. A small alien device, shaped like a lotus flower, stood on a stone pedestal. It glowed blue with soft pulses, like a heartbeat. Saraya rushed forward. The beacon, she said, still alive. She placed her hands on the petals. They opened slowly. The cave filled with quiet, humming like 1,000 whispers. In one voice, James stood guard with his rifle. Saraya closed her eyes. I'm calling the stars. I hope someone hears. James looked at Lena. She was staring at the glowing beacon. Her body glowed softly too. She's reacting to it, James said. Saraya smiled. She was born from this light. Then came the sound again, louder, closer. Boom, boom, boom. James looked. At the cave mouth, red lights blinked in the darkness. He raised his gun. They found us. Saraya stepped in front of her daughter. Lena didn't cry. She just whispered, We fight now. James nodded. Yes, little one. His finger touched the trigger. His voice was calm. If they want to end your story, they'll have to go through mine first. The cave pulsed with blue light. The beacon was alive now, singing a silent message into the stars. But no answer came yet. Outside, the earth shook. James gripped his rifle tighter. His eyes didn't blink. His breath was steady. He wasn't a hero. Not before, but now. He was the wall between them and death. Beside him, Lena stood still. Her small hands were glowing faintly, silver light rising from her palms. It didn't look like fire. It looked like memory turned into energy. Saraya stood behind them, her hands on the beacon, her body weak. It's calling, she whispered. But I don't know if anyone will answer. James didn't look back. Then we hold the door until they do. Boom. A sound echoed through the cave tunnel. The first hunter had arrived. James raised the rifle. Get ready. But then something unexpected happened. Lena stepped forward. Her eyes were glowing now, pure white. The small cave lit up with her presence. She didn't look afraid. She looked ancient. Stay behind me, James shouted. But Lena didn't. Stop. The first hunter entered the cave, a huge beast. Its armor glowing red, claws ready to kill. Lena raised her hand. No words. No scream. Just light. A blast of energy shot from her palm, silent and smooth, like moonlight turned into fire. It hit the hunter square in the chest. The creature froze, then cracked like glass. Its body shattered into 1,000,000 floating shards and dissolved into smoke. James stared. What the hell was that? Sariah was breathing hard. She's waking up. James turned to her. She has powers. She is power, Sariah said. But it's too soon. Her body isn't ready. More footsteps echoed. More hunters. Maybe 5. Maybe 10. They were coming fast, now crawling, climbing, storming down the tunnel like shadows with teeth. We need to leave, James said. Now Sariah nodded. She grabbed the beacon. It folded into a small silver orb. She handed it to Lena. Protect it, always. Lena nodded silently. They ran deeper into the cave through narrow tunnels, over old stone bridges, past glowing rocks that pulsed, like veins under the earth. But the hunters didn't stop. Their footsteps echoed behind them. James dropped a small explosive behind him. Run faster. Boom, the tunnel collapsed. Rocks fell. Dust rose, but James knew it wouldn't stop them forever. They reached the end of the cave. A dead end. A cliff. Below them, a deep underground river. Dark, fast, cold. We jump, James said. Sariah hesitated. The current, it's either this or face them. James said. He looked at Lena. Can you swim? She looked nervous, but nodded. James smiled. Good, let's fly, little one. He grabbed Lena. Sariah took his hand, and they jumped. Splash, cold. Like knives, the current pulled them fast through tunnels of rock and water. Spinning, crashing, falling, darkness all around, then dash light. They shot out of the cave mouth into open daylight. The river carried them to the edge of a waterfall, then threw them down one last time. James hit the water below and pulled Lena to shore. Sariah washed up seconds later. Gasping for air, they had escaped the cave but not the hunt. James helped them up. Where now? Sariah looked around. There's an old ruin nearby. From before Earth knew we were watching. We can rest there, hide, maybe finish the call. They moved through the forest, wet, cold, but alive. But something was changing. Above them, in the sky, clouds were moving strangely, swirling, forming a circle. A storm, but not of nature. James looked up. Is that them? No, Sariah said. Then she looked at the orb in Lena's hand. A single beam of light was rising from it, silent, invisible to most eyes. Someone had heard the call, but the hunters were not far behind. Asterisk, the ruins stood like broken teeth. In the forest, old stones covered in moss. Walls cracked by time, silent, ancient, forgotten. But now they would become a battlefield. James, Sariah, and Lena stepped inside the hollowed remains of what looked like a temple. A circle of pillars surrounded them, half buried in vines. Strange markings, alien, not human, lined the stones. Sariah placed the silver beacon orb in the center of the temple. It floated, spinning gently. It's stronger here, she said. This place remembers us. James looked around, rifle in hand. Then let's hope your friends are listening. Lena stood by the beacon, quiet. Her eyes were half closed. She was humming softly. The sound wasn't human. It was older. A song without words, full of light and memory. Suddenly, a crack of thunder. Though the sky was clear, James turned. The first hunter had arrived. Then another, then 5, then 10. They stood at the edge of the ruins, forming a circle, their red eyes glowing. Each wore dark armor, pulsing with energy. Silent, ready. James aimed. Back away, he said, but they didn't move. One stepped forward, larger, taller, covered in black armor with gold streaks. The leader, it spoke. Its voice was not sound. It echoed inside their heads. Surrender the child. You cannot protect the seed. James stepped forward. You'll have to go through me. The hunter tilted its head. As you wish. They charged James, fired first. One down, then two. But they were too fast. Soraya raised a shield, her final strength. Blue light flared around her. The hunters struck it hard, shaking the ground. James reloaded. How long can you hold it? Soraya didn't answer. Blood silver was dripping from her mouth. The shield cracked. James yelled, "Fall back." Soraya collapsed. The shield shattered. The hunters rushed in. And then Lena screamed. Not a cry of fear. A scream of power. Everything stopped. Time slowed. The air filled with light. Lena's feet rose from the ground. Her eyes burned like stars. Her body glowed with silver lines, moving like rivers across her skin. She raised her hands, and the hunters froze. Their bodies turned to stone. Then their bodies turned to stone. All but one, the leader, was gone. He stepped forward, roaring blades forming from his arms. James stood in front of Lena. No. The hunter raised its blade. James fired. The bullet bounced off. The hunter lunged, but it never reached him, because Soraya stood up, her body broken, but her eyes full of fire. She wrapped her arms around the hunter and whispered a single word in her language. Goodbye. Then light exploded. A shockwave hit the ruins. The trees bent. The earth cracked. When the light faded, Soraya and the hunter were both gone. Ash on the wind, Lena collapsed. James caught her. The beacon floated down, dim now. Silence returned. James held Lena close. It's okay. You're safe. Lena looked up, tears in her eyes. She saved me. James nodded. She saved all of us. Suddenly, a sound filled the air, not from Earth, from above. A ship, silver, beautiful. Like a falling star, it landed beside the ruins. A door opened. 3 figures stepped out, tall, glowing. Like Soraya, all of them looked at Lena. The oldest one knelt. You are the last seed, he said. And now, the first light. He looked at James, and you are her protector. James stood, still holding the girl. I'm just human. The alien smiled. Exactly. They took Lena's hand. She looked at James, then back at them. Then she looked at the sky and smiled. The forest was quiet again, not the silence of fear, but the silence after a storm has passed. The alien ship hovered just above the ground, humming softly, like it was breathing. Its surface shimmered with colors James had no name for. The light from its core pulsed, gently as if waiting. James stood near the ruins, still holding the beacon. It was cold now. Quiet Lena stood beside him, her small hand wrapped in his. She looked tired, but calm. Different, like something inside her had grown. Not just her powers, but her soul. The 3 alien beings who arrived from the ship stood near the edge of the ruins. They looked like Soraya but older, wiser, covered in symbols that glowed like living ink. One of them stepped forward. His voice was deep but kind. You kept the seed alive. For that, our kind lives again. James gave a small nod. I didn't do it alone. The alien looked at the scorched earth where Soraya had made her final stand. He placed a hand over his heart and bowed. Then he turned to Lena, child of stars. Memory of a lost race. Are you ready to return? Lena looked at the ship, then back at James. Her eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but something else. The ache of goodbye. She stepped forward and hugged him tight. You saved me, she whispered. James crouched and looked into her glowing eyes. You saved all of us. Lena smiled. You come too. James hesitated. He looked back at the forest, the broken cabin, the river. His life, Earth. Then he looked up, at the sky. The stars were calling now. Not with noise, but with promise. He stood and faced the ship. "I'm just a man," he said quietly. The alien beside him nodded. "And that is enough." The ship's ramp lowered with a soft breath of air. James stepped onto it with Lena. She took one last look at the forest, then turned her eyes to the stars. Inside, the ship was warm, not cold. The walls moved like water, held in shape. The floor shimmered with light, but felt soft as moss. Hush. The ship rose. Earth grew smaller in the window. James placed a hand on the glass. "I never thought I'd leave home," he whispered. Lena took his hand. "You didn't leave it," she said. "You brought it with you." He smiled, and together, they rose higher than birds, past the clouds, beyond the moon, and into the dark sea of stars, where the story would begin again, in a universe full of danger, darkness, and forgotten empires. It wasn't a weapon or a machine or a super being that saved a race. It was kindness, a choice, a single human who decided not to look away. And that made all the difference.